So I was thinking some people might find this interesting. I personally found this fascinating, and there will be here. I'll just maximize this. There will be a link to this below the video description. So this is from a website called The Bipolar Child. Um, so I was thinking the other day. I've always been obsessed with carbs, be it candy, be it sweets, be it chocolate, be it cookies, cake, bread, potato chips, etc. I've always loved that. I've loved that a lot more than I've loved things like fat or meat or anything. As a kid, I used to just, when we'd go to the grocery store, I just want a big crusty roll. Even above, like, I don't know, whatever it is kids like these days. Um, and I was thinking, that's really weird, and my mood seems to really be affected by it. If I get low blood sugar, I go fucking crazy. So I looked it up and I came up with this, and I found out that carbohydrates are craved in people with bipolar disorder. So this is really interesting. So let's just read through this and I'll give some comments. One of the questions we asked on the initial survey for the bipolar child concerned a craving for carbohydrates. Did the child or adolescent crave starchy foods such as potatoes, breads, pastas, and macaroni and cheese, or sugary foods such as candy, cookies, and ice cream? We'll never forget the follow up phone interview we had with a young woman who had indicated a craving for carbohydrates all through her childhood and into the present. As we asked her to describe the cravings, there was a giggle at the other end of the phone. She asks, "Would you consider a gallon of Breyer's chocolate chip mint every night a craving?" Yeah, I used to do that back in university a lot. I'd buy a tub of ice cream and just eat the entire thing. That was partially the medication I'm on, but yeah. She went on to tell us that her craving was so strong that she would buy half a gallon and eat it in her car and then go back to the store and buy another one. We asked if she kept a supply of plastic spoons in her car. She laughed out loud and said, "No, I would use my fingers. It was savage." Yeah, I know back, I used to eat entire boxes of cookies. I would just wolf them down and still be hungry afterwards. Um, let's see here. Adolescents have recounted pouring sugar straight out of the box down their throats, and mothers have told us that long ago they nicknamed their children Carb King or Spud. We recently interviewed Spud, but first we asked her mother to describe her daughter's tremendous insanity about eating potatoes. What if she doesn't get them, we asked. It gets really, really ugly, she replied quietly. When we asked her what ugly meant, she said, "See what Katie will tell you. Katie will be totally honest about it." We reached Katie and she explained, "Say I'm doing homework and suddenly I get a craving for potatoes. I shut down and can think of nothing else. I go into mission mode and start to worry. What will I do if I can't get them? I will be totally lost. Where can I go from here? I won't be able to get off this. If my mother says I don't have potatoes, Katie, and I'm not going out in this weather to get them, I get really, really angry. Most of the time we have a huge screaming match, but sometimes I push her because I'm so mad. I see my mother as my enemy because she's not supplying me with what I need. She is a total obstacle to what I need. The word no is evil. It is not acceptable." See, I used to think I was just kind of like a normal bratty kid because I wanted to eat potato chips and bread and shit all day. But now that I think about it, it is almost like an addictive craving I have for this kind of stuff. To be honest, though, like potatoes and bread aren't even really that bad. I mean, so long as you're eating like multigrain bread or like actual baked potato, that doesn't like spike your glycerin levels that much. It's more like sugar and that kind of like refined sugary things. As for carbs, he's a bread and mashed potato child. Oh my god, mashed potatoes are my favorite food. I almost force feed him anything else. He would eat huge piles of mashed potatoes if I let him. He loves and gets obsessed about eating them. And during mornings and evenings, he is just ravenous. I almost have to follow him around to keep him from eating everything in sight, mostly bread, chips, and stuff. I don't keep a lot of sweets around for that reason. My parents wouldn't keep sugar around because I would just eat it. Many parents report their children are extremely finicky about the foods they eat, and some eat only white foods: bread, pasta, french fries, potatoes, and rice. I used to be like that. It was a long battle to get me to eat even like dark bread. Um, or eat an equally narrow repertoire of foods that consists of 4 or 5 items with a preference or aversion to certain textures. I can't eat raw tomatoes. Like, I can eat tomato sauce or even things with tomato bits, but just raw tomatoes just make me nauseous. Some crave one kind of food to the exclusion of all others, and then after a month or so, seem to lose all interest in eating it. Parents watching their children's weight ballooning as their kids marauded through the kitchen day after day, night after night, wondered anxiously and often with some level of disgust what they can do to stop these gorging out of control behaviors. What is going on? Well, it has long been known that adults who suffer from seasonal affective disorder have a marked craving for carbs in the winter months and are not as ravenous about starchy or sweet foods. In the summer and spring months, there are no published studies about children and this phenomenon. However, when the research of the Juvenile Bipolar Research Foundation look at a sample of over 1,000 children at risk for or diagnosed with bipolar disorder, over 65% of parents endorsed the item craves sweet tasting food or carbohydrates as a frequency rate of often or very often or almost constantly. In other words, it wasn't seasonal. So that's 2/3. That's a lot. This would fit with the poor regulation of drives. Let's see here. Okay, the biological basis. The appetite craving for carbohydrates is modulated by a complex cascade of neurochemicals. Of these peptides, neuropeptide Y is thought to play a major role in the craving for carbohydrates. Neuropeptide Y is produced by a dense cluster of cells inside the hippo, whatever part of the brain. Let's see here. It is the most abundant behaviorally active neuropeptide. Studies show the injection of the chemical into the brain causes an animal to forage and consume carbs to the exclusion of all their foods. Let's see here. My understanding is that just scanning through this, bipolar disorder triggers the release of this chemical, um, or it's in much higher levels than normal. It also triggers a sense of deprivation. Let's see here. Children and adolescents with bipolar disorder appear to have a low threshold for anxiety and overreact to stressful events, real or perceived, such as deprivation, loss, rejection, or humiliation. This is why children overreact to the simple word no when its expression contains elements of deprivation, loss, rejection, and humiliation. Something else stands out in Katie's comments. Her worry if she didn't get what she needed and couldn't pass her fixation on the food. What will I do if I can't get them? I will be totally lost. Where will I go from here? Children and adolescents with bipolar disorder often have rigid and inflexible thinking and become prisoners of the present. A craving for carbs leads to a number of behaviors that are manifestations of appetite dysregulation that may help to define one aspect of the core syndrome of bipolar disorder in childhood. These behaviors include foraging, going after and finding food, binging, and hoarding. Many parents report dismay when they discover these hoarding behaviors when they simply move the beds in their kids' room. The space behind or to the sides of their beds reveal caches of candy bars, potato chips, soda cans, and cookies. Empty wrappers are strewn around these nests. The kids may be hoarding them for when they may need immediate access to carbs. It is part of the acquisition drive and the appetite dysregulation. Katie hoards what she and doesn't hide her need behind the bed. She concocts this potato casserole, potatoes, cheese, and sour cream, and has to know that half of it is in the refrigerator in case she has a sudden craving. She guards the um when asked what would happen if her brother decided to have some of the potato casserole, she laughed and said that would never happen. He's afraid of the wrath of Katie. Medication causes cravings. That's not that important. That's a lot better known. It's also worse because there's so many carbohydrate um, intensive things. Let's see here. So in conclusion, let's see here. So, anyways, yeah, there's not too much more to say about that. So basically, people with bipolar disorder have an irrational craving for carbohydrates. I know I do. I know if I'm not on a diet or if I'm not really trying, um, it's just really it's really kind of sad. Just how much I crave that shit. I'd be willing to, like, when I get into a carb rage, like, kill someone to get carbs. I used to just buy bags of chips and down them, etc. Being on proper medication helps, but I'm trying to go off of just refined sugar. I mean, I'll still eat like things that have sugar in them, but I won't eat like chocolate or candy or pastries or cake or ice cream anymore. Just because what it does is I have that craving, and eating the sugar temporarily like rebalances the chemicals in my brain and kind of calms me down. But it's an extremely short passing sensation, and then I kind of go through withdrawal, and I need to eat more and more and more sugar. Unlike something like caffeine, which just kind of makes you jittery and might affect your sleep a bit, sugar gives you fucking diabetes and makes you fat. So I'm trying to work with that. I probably eat too much bread, but at least it's whole grain bread, so it has like some fiber and food value, and it doesn't spike your glycerol levels nearly as much. And then potatoes are actually not that unhealthy. Like French fries and chips are unhealthy, but like baked or boiled potatoes aren't really that bad for you. They have a lot of different nutrients in them. Anyways, I hope you guys found that interesting. This is Argent. Talk to you later.